On the table you have a colored sheet on both sides, a handout, and if you have that, you might look at that briefly with me. And let's begin with the side that says local economic development metrics. Under the theory that one ought to talk about the things that they want to change, improve, or repair as the starting point for a serious conversation, this is some ideas about what might be on that list. I claim no sufficiency for this, but I think all of these could be described as necessary. And so what might those development metrics be? Well, certainly jobs, certainly commercial property, certainly investment. How much investment are we putting into the process? Public infrastructure is a key element of economic development. Industry-specific measures, because general measures tend to be not focused on the particular needs of individual industries. And then personal income. And I would remind you that economic vitality really is measured in significant part by personal income. So the thing that I want to emphasize in this is that all of these, in some measure, need to be in balance. It's a bad thing to have too much vacant property, too much vacant commercial property. It's a bad thing to have too little vacant commercial property. And in many ways, all of these things need to balance out. Perhaps the definitive measure of that is looking at the national scene, where we have extraordinary success in multinationals and no jobs. And that's a serious dysfunction in our economic development nationally. If you'll turn that page over, there are some ideas about local economic development activities. On the right side of that chart, tangible infrastructure, intangible infrastructure, things like public safety and schools, community planning, business and government relations, jobs and workforce activities. They all have to do with the environment that we are developing in, or the environment that we have in which the economy must operate. On the left side are activities that we might undertake. The aggregation of resources, promotion of the community, business retention, business attraction, business startup. Now, here's the point that I'd like to emphasize before we begin. And that is that I hope that the conversation today will focus on what we should do. I don't believe that it is so much an issue of who should do it as what the tasks ought to be. There's very little that we couldn't do collectively. And that if we could reach agreement on both the goals, the economic outcomes, and on the activities that would achieve those economic outcomes, we could figure out a way to share the work, to distribute the work. I certainly don't want to silence conversation about who would do it better, or what has to happen in one sector or another, in one area or another. But again, we're looking for those positive changes, those positive acts that are necessary.